watching Numbskull News, and today we're going to get into some of this Disney crap that's been going on. Apparently, they're losing a hell of a lot of money, and how that can actually affect the Pac-12 TV deal that supposedly is coming up soon. So Disney fires their CEO, Bob Chapek, some stupid ass name. Anyway, they fire him mainly because of money. You'll see a lot on YouTube. People talk about how Disney's gone all kinds of woke and that makes you go broke and whatever other rhyme structure they can use. I'm not sure how true all that is. All I know is that they've screwed up Star Wars. All right. Then you got the pandemic, which totally screwed up Marvel and any other kind of movie property they have. And it wasn't just a pandemic when it comes to Marvel. It was after Endgame, people kind of lost interest in Marvel a little bit. You have to build from the ground back up into whatever structure you're going to have or big bad guy at the end. And no, right now there's not a whole lot of clarity in that. So Marvel's kind of lost some of its luster and they're not making near the money they once were. As a matter of fact, they're probably losing quite a bit. But all of that pales in comparison to streaming, because Bob Chapek put a ton into Disney Plus and their other streaming properties like Hulu, and they're losing their ass on that. What do I mean by losing their ass? They're losing roughly $1.5 billion, and that was just in the last quarter. That's, in case you don't know, a quarter is 3 months of the year. So there's, you do 3 times 4, that's 12 months. So every quarter is 3 months. And in 3 months' time, they lost $1.5 billion just on their streaming. That's horrific. Now, there is something to be said for live sports. Live sports makes money, and ESPN, of course, that's what they're all about, is sports. But if you remember, not too long ago, ESPN had to lay off a crap ton of their on-air talent, plus behind-the-scenes talent, had to restructure a lot of things because they were losing their ass as well. So Disney decides to hire back Bob Iger because under his watch, Disney became, the most valuable property in Hollywood. But he's got an uphill climb because it's, again, it's not just the movies, it's not just the streaming, but altogether Disney, they're losing their ass, like I said. Disney's shares, they are a publicly traded company. They've lost over 41% of their value just this year alone. And the big problem is the market cap, which if you don't know, that's basically the value of your company is your market cap. And they were at $260 billion in 2020, which is fantastic. It's huge. And they have dropped all the way to $167 billion at the end of this year. That's almost $100 billion of value, Disney value, that is now gone. So Bob Iger's sole purpose is to regain the value, see their stock go back up and start making money again, printing money like they were for the last, good Lord, 20, 30 years. But especially since the MCU and the Star Wars trilogy and all that shit was happening, they were making money hand over fist. And they're not anymore. Just in your own home, or if you own your own little business or something, you have to get your expenses under control before you can start thinking about making money, especially if you're losing money. Now, overall, Disney offers a hell of a lot to their consumer, to their customer base. Disney Plus and Hulu alone, man, offers a ton of entertainment. So, not really bitching about that. I'm not saying all their shows are good. I was watching whatever that is, that new She-Hulk thing, and it's horrendous. It's just stupid. And this isn't a feminist rant. It just sucks. It's supposed to be a comedy, and it's not. They're breaking the fourth wall, and I wish they'd put it back up because it sucks balls. However, WandaVision was pretty good, but I'm sure it was pretty damned expensive. So what they're probably going to do is start cutting back on those Disney shows, spending way too much money. If you remember back when Marvel had their Netflix shows, those were very popular. Tons of people watched them, and I'm sure they cost money, but they didn't cost that much. WandaVision, that was an insanely expensive show. So was Loki. Loki had to be off the charts expensive. There's no way in hell they recoup the money on that. One of the ways you do recoup your money, of course, is licensing. But these shows are exclusive to Disney Plus. So they're not making money on those shows like you would if you're an independent production company and making a show, then licensing that to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or whatever. However, Disney doesn't have to pay any licensing fees. That's the good part, but the bad part is they're not making money. So they got to get a little cheaper on that. And also with the Disney movies, I'm sorry, with the Marvel movies, they got to get cheaper on those. You can't, the Wakanda Forever, I can't remember the exact budget on that, but it was insane. I mean, they're break even. That movie has to make $800 to $900 million just to break even. That's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. The first Black Panther movie made over $1 billion, and the reason it did because it was right there with Endgame and all that crap when Marvel was super hot. Captain Marvel made $1 billion, and there's no way in hell that's a $1 billion movie. I can see Black Panther being very popular and making a lot of money. I don't have a huge problem with Captain Marvel, unlike a lot of other people. I enjoyed the movie, but it's not $1 billion profit movie. I think that's going to be the majority of Bob Iger's focus, is getting, a little less budget on some of these movies, or most of these movies, so that way they can increase their profit margin at the end. And it's good to have exclusive shows to your streaming property. That way you can get more subscribers that want to see that stuff. But you got to have higher quality shows and not so expensive shows for that to work. But a third place, and this is where I'm going to spend the majority of this video, the third thing that can really save some money on is live sports, because it is expensive. And ESPN, they pay an ass ton for the NFL. They pay an ass ton for the NBA. They put up a lot of money for the WNBA, even though no one watches that shit. And of course, they're paying out the ass for the SEC. They gave the ACC a good chunk, even though it's a good deal and a long-term deal. I think it's up when Christ comes back, but that's the length of the deal that they agreed to. And it's a good deal for them, but it's still a lot of money, and they just paid the Big 12 a good chunk of change. So after all this money they're handing out for live sports, there's the Pac-12. What does the Pac-12 offer, other than a late night window? I understand ESPN may want that inventory, but what's the cheapest way to get that inventory? Is it really the Pac-12? Is the Pac-12 the cheapest way they can go getting that inventory that they need? If you're Bob Iger, that may be another line item that you're looking at. Like, okay, do we need to spend $300 million a year to the Pac-12 when some of their biggest brands that are left there don't want to be there? And they may not sign a grant of rights deal. So is this really a smart business move? Or would it be a smarter business move? Go to a conference that you already have a deal with in the Big 12. And the Big 12 is looking to expand. And say, you know what? We already got a deal with you. We already got the pro rata thing in there. You know what? We can make adjustments. How about we cover 100% instead of 67% of that pro rata? Go out there and get some teams for us. We need the late night window. ESPN needs that. They're willing to pay for it, but you can get it cheaper. You can get it cheaper if you're ESPN by the Big 12 taking Pac-12 teams. Now, obviously, we're not going to get all those teams, but if I'm ESPN, I'm trying like hell to get the Big 12 to add 6 teams from the Pac-12. Do you really need all 10? That's the question. Do you need all 10? You don't. What you need is enough teams for that time zone that still get good ratings. Utah gets good ratings. Believe it or not, Washington State and Oregon State, they're not a bad draw. Arizona, but basketball-wise, they're really good. And they do draw a lot of interest to the tournament. Now, that would help out Fox, understandably, but it still helps with the inventory overall. And not to mention, that's a nice market down there in Arizona. Of course, the traditional way to do this would be for ESPN and, let's say, Amazon to team up and come up with some kind of deal that's enough money for the Pac-12 to survive since they're going broke. So that's the traditional way of doing it. And it costs more. It'll cost more for ESPN to do that versus giving a little bit more to the Big 12 to absorb more teams for the inventory that they need. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. My first 2 ads would be Oregon State and Washington State. because they'll jump right now. They'll do it right now because everybody's leaving them out. And that's their biggest fear, is being relegated to the Mountain West. So bring them in now. Oregon State just had one hell of a good year. Washington State's not a bad program at all. After that, I got to go with the Utah Utes, man. Go get the two-time Pac-12 champion. Bring them in. All right, they are a national team now. And the before mentioned Arizona, of course, you go grab them. And unfortunately, what does that mean? You'll probably have to go get Colorado. Now, I'm not a big proponent of doing that because they don't seem to give a damn about their sports. However, if Neon Deion Sanders ends up with Colorado, that's a team that can compete in the Big 12 for a Big 12 championship. And I'm not talking about 10, 20 years down the road. I'm talking in the next few years. So that would be intriguing. And of course, you got to go after Oregon and Washington, see what they're going to do. Do what you can. See if they can get them to commit long term, at least till 2031, here in the Big 12. That needs to be the game plan going forward. And Disney should be all about trying to save money. And that's a lot of savings. They use the Big 12 to get your time window in the Pac-12 area. Anyway, that's all I got on this crap. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.